And welcome back to the Daily Wrap, where you find us today without our friend and co-host Joe Concha, who'll be back with us on Monday. But today, Secretary of State John Kerry, Energy Secretary Ernest Moniz, and Treasury Secretary Jack Lew testified before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee about the Iran deal. Let's just say they kind of hammered on the poor guys from the Obama administration.
To say this is, to be able to walk away from this and say that this is a good deal is ludicrous. With all due respect, you guys have been bamboozled, and the American people are going to pay for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Of course, Senator Kerry defended the deal.
When we began our negotiations, Iran had enough fissile material for 10 to 12 bombs. They had 19,000 centrifuges, up from the 163 that they had back in 2003 when the prior administration was engaged with them on this very topic. So this isn't a question of giving them what they want. I mean, it's a question of how do you hold their program back?
Now, a Pew Research poll released this week revealed that more Americans now disapprove than approve of the nuclear deal. Of the 79% of Americans who have heard about the agreement, just 38% approve, while 48% disapprove. This is good news for the GOP, excuse me, and Blue Dog Democrats trying to stop the deal. Heather, what do you think? Is this going down?
Well, listen, we've talked about this before, but I don't know that there's ever been a point in time where more Americans approved than disapproved. Even before, when we knew nothing about the deal, now that we know more about the deal, I think that it has been consistent that Americans are against this. I think that the president is going to do everything he can to push it through. And as we've said before, it's just whether or not they can get those votes to override the veto.
Well, that's it, Brad. I mean, the reality is here that I think we all know by now that Congress is not going to approve this deal per se. The question is that when they try and reimpose the sanctions, right, does the president successfully or unsuccessfully override?
So there's two pieces of it. I'm hearing increasingly from people who pay attention to this that they actually may get the supermajority they need and make this opposition veto-proof. Now, I don't think anyone knows, but it's a lot closer to that than I thought it would be 2 weeks ago. I think there's specific reasons for why that happens. And when you talk about the other snapping back, is not just overriding the veto, is there's a logic piece that I think is now starting to sink in for people. If sanctions didn't work and got us to the place where we needed to make this deal, why would putting them back in place again make them work any better? That's
a really interesting question. And let's just say, Paul, that Brad has the information right. What do we do if this deal does go down the drain because the president cannot make a veto stick?
Well, hopefully it'll be an issue in the presidential election. I mean, that would be a good thing. If
but while we're waiting to get from here to the presidential election, Iran will be busy building a bomb.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if the sanctions come back from us, what kind of a monetary influence is that going to have in Iran? You know, one of the things that Senator Corker said is that it went from Iran being the heavy to Congress being the heavy, and that's a real problem for us internationally. You know, I think that if ultimately they override the veto, the next step isn't good for us in the international community.
Well, speaking of the Senate's reaction to this deal, today outside New York, Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer's office in Midtown Manhattan, Assemblyman Dov Hikind led a protest urging Senator Schumer to vote against the Iran deal. Dov told Newsmax TV that he is optimistic that Senator Schumer will oppose the deal.
Everybody's waiting for Schumer. Everyone's waiting for Senator Schumer. What is Senator Schumer going to do? It's critical, but I have to believe that he'll oppose it. Yeah. But it's not just opposing it that we want. We want a leader with Senator Schumer.
Now, shortly after Dov made those comments, he and his fellow protesters were arrested by the New York Police Department. The New York Post reported that the pro-Israel Schumer was on the fence about voting against the Iran deal because he wants to be the next minority leader of the Senate, and he's afraid of voting against President Obama. Brad.
Well, look,
Brad,
the arrest makes
sense
of this.
Do, Brad?
I can only tell you that what Hyken said later on in that meeting was that he's absolutely confident that Schumer will do the right thing, by which he means oppose the deal. So the question I would have asked Assemblyman Hyken were here is, if you know he's going to do the right thing, why protest? And this is what becomes important, because I don't think it's just about Schumer. He is influential, and this is about building coalitions. It's not easy to stand up against the leader of your party and your president.
You know,
and so that's what's going on here.
You know what I foresee with Chuck Schumer, Heather? You remember when Kerry was criticized for voting for the deal before he voted against it? I think Schumer is going to take a public position one way or the other, probably for it, and then vote against it. What do you think?
Well, how does that serve him?
It serves him because he can try and have it both ways with those who don't pay close attention. He's in an impossible situation, Paul, isn't he? He's got his base
he's gonna build a
of
team.
support.
He's got to build a team behind him, and he will. I believe he will. I do. I think it's strong.
I think it's going to be easier and easier. These side deals made with the IAEA and a variety of other things are going to make it much easier now for people who I think wanted to give this deal a shot.
Out now?
I think it's more than an out. I think it's a principled reason to be more concerned than he was 24 or 36 hours ago.
I think those side deals are huge because it's just a sign to the American public anyway, and to those people who don't understand it all. Side deals sound shady.
It sounds shady, but the reality is that with every treaty this country's ever entered into, there's been side deals. Is this any different?
Yes, because IAEA is a UN organization. The UN has a terrible record enforcing anything with Iran. Just look at the 100,000 rockets that are now in Lebanon and Hezbollah control after the 2006 accord that was supposed to get it down to 5,000.
Paul, we didn't get your opinion. Is this deal going to make it or not?
It's going to make it. Schumer does not want to go down as the guy. He doesn't. He does not.
Well, we'll find out. In the meantime, let us know what you think about the Iran deal. Should Senator Schumer, say that quickly, should Senator Schumer oppose the deal, or should he vote with the president? Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments. Let us know. Now, coming up, ISIS is bigger and badder than ever before, or so says the head of the FBI. Should we all be worried? We're going to tell you the answer to that next. Stay with us.